November TBR, courtesy of my hubby. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chrissy and this is my cozy corner. So welcome. In today's video, you are going to be watching the aftermath of my husband picking my November reads. A couple weeks ago, I did a video with my husband where he picked out 5 books for my TBR cart. And you saw that he broke the rules. If you watched it, he picked 2 that were not on my cart. So I'm just gonna show you real quick which books those were. He picked A Deadly Education, Battle Royale, which was not on the cart. This is actually his book. It's one of his favorite books of all time. He's been trying to get me to read it, and I do want to read it, but I just kept putting it off. So I just let that one go. Broken Girls, Mistborn, which I'm super excited for, and the last one was also not on the TBR cart, but I have read the entire comic book series, which is Invincible. But he got me for Christmas, him and my son, the like side stories that are not in the actual like main comic books. So I'm also excited about this one too. So those are the reads that he picked. So I'm gonna start with A Deadly Education, and I'm gonna bring you along with me on this journey. We're gonna read these books. I'm gonna talk about them without any spoilers and update you as I go. But first, I'm gonna go over to my room and get nice and comfortable in my bed. Okay, a little update on A Deadly Education. It was a rough start. I am enjoying it now, but it was a rough start. About like 40-ish pages in, it was just so info dumpy. And the chapters are so long. So there were long chapters of info dumping, no dialogue in some of them. And I was like, I might DNF. And it takes a lot for me to DNF a book. But I'm glad I did not DNF. So our main character's name is Galadriel, which reminds me of Lord of the Rings. But anyway, she goes to Scholomance, which is a school for magically gifted students, kind of like Hogwarts. Now, some students' parents are wizards. That makes it easier for them, and some students' parents are not, which makes it a little bit harder for them in the school. They have this thing called mana, which is basically the energy. They use the energy around them to cast spells. And Galadriel has like kind of a nemesis. His name is Orion. He helps her out when she doesn't want help, and they kind of have like a banter thing going back and forth, but they do kind of have a growing friendship right now, and I'm really interested in that. But what I was saying before about like this much of the book is just like total info dumping, and that doesn't look like a lot, but that's like 50 pages, and for some people, if they're not into it within the first 50 pages, they DNF, which normally isn't me, but I actually almost did. But after you get past that, you get more dialogue, you start to understand the world a little bit better through the dialogue, and it ends up being so much fun. I'm only a third of the way through, so I will keep updating, but the school is really cool because they don't have any teachers. It's all independent study, and the school kind of messes with them. Like, there was a part that I actually just read where like the main character Galadriel was talking about how if you don't put the library book back in the right place, the school like will put it somewhere you may never find it again. So the school kind of, it's magical and messes with them, which I really like that. I'm really glad that I didn't DNF it and I like stuck through that first like 40-50 pages because it's getting really fun right now, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I will update you probably when I'm about halfway through and see how we're feeling then. But yeah, I am glad I stuck with it because it was really rough in the beginning. Okay, so I said I was gonna update you guys at half, but I was enjoying myself so much. I just kept reading, and now I'm probably 80% in. I think I have about maybe like roughly about 20% left. I'm still super enjoying it. It's a nice quick little fantasy. It's supposed to be fantasy dark academia, and I see the dark academia, but I've definitely read darker academia. I love the monsters in the school. I love how the school is sentient. That's really cool. I'm still enjoying that part about it. There's another aspect that I did forget to mention. The main characters Orion and Elle, or Galadriel, are in their junior year, and they have to try to make it to graduation. Otherwise, failure means death, which is pretty cool. The thing I still don't like about it is it focuses more on exposition than it does on world building. So we still get moments where it's like so much just like talk of info dumping and explaining. So sometimes that makes it a little bit hard to understand. as of now. I didn't love the main character at first, even though I was having fun the last time I talked to you guys. She was quite annoying, somewhat bratty, but I have grown to understand her a little bit more. So she is pretty badass. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish this and I will update you. I mean, this is if you love fantasy, you love dark academia, but like you maybe don't want to commit yourself to like a fantasy series or like a big thick standalone fantasy book. This is very, very quick. All right, you guys, I finished A Deadly Education last night, and I remember I was talking to you guys last about how I didn't enjoy the first 15 to 20%, and I also was not loving the female main character either at first, but then I said that it was starting to pick up and I was starting to really enjoy it. And those thoughts still stand, so I'm happy to report the pattern continued. It got a lot better, and I thought the ending was pretty action-packed. And then the last line dropped. I wouldn't say it was like shocking, but it definitely makes me want to pick up the next book because I'm like, but why? Why? You know, like I need more answers. So it definitely did its job there. I'm going to give you like my final star rating at the end with all the books that my husband picked out. That way he can be with me while I give my final star ratings. So I did like it though. So on to the next one. The next one I'm going to read, and I know my husband is so happy about this, is going to be a Battle Royale. And she's a little thick. So this is my husband's favorite book of all time. This was his copy. He's had it since middle school. So yeah, we're going to read this one next, and I will update you throughout, just like the last one. I'm a little over 100 pages in and I'm really enjoying it. Just like my husband said, it does have the Hunger Games-esque vibes where you have 42 some students who end up being taken against their will to a deserted island. One thing I love is you jump kind of right into the thrilling aspects. It doesn't like take too long for it to even lead up to that part of the story. So I was like, whoa. So far it's super fast paced. I'm gonna read a little bit more and then I'll come back and update you. I'm so glad to report that I'm thoroughly enjoying my husband's favorite book of all time. So I'm hoping to finish this by tomorrow. Now these middle schoolers are the most mature middle schoolers I've ever met. Well, I've not met, but read about. I mean, not like just what they're going through, just like stuff they've already been through and how they speak. I'm like, y'all are some really smart, mature middle schoolers. But it's hard to really think of them as middle schoolers. I think they're more on the cusp of like going into high school, but still, it's still young. I don't trust anybody. I feel like the main two characters, it's Shuya and Noriko. Those are like the two main characters. And then you have another character who's kind of in the mix named Shogo. And I don't trust him, but I've definitely like gasped at some moments in this. So I finished my husband's favorite book of all time that he picked out for me to read, Battle Royale, and I really liked it. So this is about a group of junior high students who, as a form of social control, the government thrusts a random class into a game where they have to off each other and try to be the last one standing. One of my favorite things about this book is that all the characters have some sort of backstory, so you kind of feel sorry for them even as you're reading them like off other people, because I mean they're trying to survive, so they kind of feel like they have to, but it makes it less gratuitous, if that makes sense. But just be warned, it is still very violent. My husband did mention that this was very similar to the Hunger Games. Like when we were watching the Hunger Games, he just kept saying Battle Royale, Battle Royale. He said specifically just the first movie or first book reminded him of Battle Royale, and I definitely get that. But I would say like saying that the Hunger Games is a ripoff is a little bit of a stretch. And I think that's more the fact that it is a series and the second and the third book get like kind of different. So let's take a look at the similarities. So one of the biggest similarities is obviously the government thrusting them into this game where there has to be one winner standing, and then it does get televised. So that is suspiciously similar. Another thing is where they all get thrown into is some kind of jungle or island, like a very like remote. and they both have a lottery system. So in the Hunger Games, from what I remember, because it's been a long time since I read the books or watched the movies, is the lottery system was very like bingo-esque. Then this one is picking random like classes. Another thing that was pretty similar is you have a male and female protagonist who end up having a growing connection in the games, but I feel like that's in like a lot of dystopian or fantasy books. And also the whole purpose of these games. In the Hunger Games, it was a response to a previous district rebelling, and then in Battle Royale, it's more used as like an intimidation tactic, but I feel like that's still pretty similar in my opinion. The last similarity I want to mention is that both books have an announcer to tell the characters who are still alive, the characters that did not make it through to the next day. That was another thing that was a little too suspiciously similar. Now let's talk about some differences. One of the key differences between Battle Royale and the Hunger Games is the selection of participants, making the themes quite different. For example, in the Hunger Games, they are selected across districts, so they may not know each other going into the games. Whereas in Battle Royale, you're going in with classmates, and you may have known some of these kids for years. They might be your best friend. So it really delves into the psychology of like what these kids are going through, because they're younger and they're offing their friends. Now the Hunger Games, I feel like the theme, it more like delves into like the oppression of these different districts. Another main difference is the frequency of the games. In Battle Royale, they occur much more frequently, whereas in the Hunger Games, you have them occurring annually. And I did want to say the relationship between the protagonists in the Hunger Games, I feel like developed a lot stronger than between the main characters in this book. I didn't really like feel this huge connection, but I wasn't really reading it for that anyway, so that wasn't like that big of a deal. I would say the first Hunger Games book is quite similar to a Battle Royale in many, many aspects, but of course there is a lot of things about the plot that are different that I can't really say without spoiling too much. But I would not be surprised if Suzanne Collins was inspired by Battle Royale, but there's enough layers to the rest of the series, like the second and third book, like the reality show touch in the Hunger Games, to distinguish the two of them. Next one, which is going to be Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have some very high hopes for this. I hate going into books with high hopes, but we shall see how it goes. All right, you guys, so I have started Mistborn, not like too far in, but we are learning about the bad guy in power. He's like the Lord Ruler is what they call him. And since his ascension, there's like ash that falls down in the city, which I think is really cool to visualize and very different. We also have a group of people called the Ska who are just greatly oppressed. Now, still figuring out the magic system. It's a form of allomancy, which I know involves metals and stuff, but I'm still understanding that. And then we have a group of people that I feel like are going to become like a found family. I really like Kelsier. And then there's Vin, who's like the main female character. She's like a teenager. And I'm like, is Kelsier going to be the love interest? But he feels a lot older than her. Like more like dad vibes. Like he could be like more of like a mentor maybe, because he already is starting to feel like a mentor, but like I'm not really getting like a romantic vibe. So I'm like, I hear there's a subplot in romance. I'm just kind of like, I'm not feeling it there, but I guess we'll have to see. So I finished Mistborn, and pretty quick, might I add, because I enjoyed myself so much. So I'm so excited that I finally started my journey into the Cosmere universe. I've been dying to read a Brandon Sanderson book, or at least like dip my toes into it, and Mistborn is the perfect place to start. And I think that is the recommended place to start when you start reading his books, because they're all in like one big universe, which I don't know everything about that just yet. So we'll see, I guess, how all these connect. This kind of reminded me of Star Wars, and not like in the sci-fi sense, but more in the bad guys have already won and they're in the position of power, and then you have rebels who are trying to defeat this like very powerful being, or like godlike being. Now you do have this like main crew of characters that you follow that are a part of this uprising, trying to dismantle this corrupt hierarchy, and then they bring in this like younger girl. You find out a little bit more about her intriguing parentage. One of the reasons why I couldn't put this down was because the magic system was so unique and so interesting, and I just wanted to find out more about it, how it worked, what are the pros, what are the cons, like how people like fight each other and all that stuff. So it involves being able to metabolize metals to gain like certain abilities. For example, like bronze does something different. As a matter of fact, Sanderson has like a part in his, oh, here we go, a part in his book that talks about the different metals and what they do. It's right here. So like, for example, brass soothes emotions, pewter enhances physical abilities, tin enhances senses. So they all do something different, and that's really helpful. And of course, like most fantasy books do, there's maps, which are just always something that I love in a fantasy book, because I like to follow along and like flip back and forth to the map to see what exactly, you know, different areas and all that good stuff. So if you're like a fantasy reader, you definitely would agree with that, I'm sure. Then you have individuals who can use metals to store abilities, and I believe that's called furchemy. And then there's mistings and Mistborn. So if you're a misting, you can use one of the metals, and then Mistborn can use all the metals. So the magic system is absolutely just like, it's so good. Sanderson is really good with world building. No surprise there. And there is some people who do say there is some slow parts in this book, but that didn't really bother me. I felt like I was still entertained with the slow parts. I love the plot. I thought the action scenes were great. I could picture them perfectly. I liked the characters in the book. I did predict something, so it wasn't like totally like shocking. There was one part that did get me, like I had a feeling it might happen, but it still kind of made me sad. But overall, I really love this book. I can see it being a 5-star series, or at least maybe one of the books. This wasn't quite a 5-star. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. So now we're gonna go start Broken Girls. It's in my library, that's why I put an image up here, and that is a total change of genre. So we'll see how I feel about that, and I'll continue to update you guys. So I have been busy reading The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is my first book by this author, and I am thoroughly enjoying the reading experience so far. I like the writing, I like the story, and I was about 1/3 of the way through. It's moving pretty quickly. I do like that we have two different timelines. One is in the 1950s that's centering on the all-girls boarding school. A lot of like weird kind of things are going on there. They're supposed to be troubled girls, and there's a lot of mystery going on with that I'm still like, I have some predictions about, but I'm not like 100% sure. The second timeline, which is 2014, it focuses on a woman named Fiona who lost her sister 20 years ago, and her sister's body was found near the all-girls boarding school, which is Isle Wild, and it has been shut down for many, many years. And then she finds out that some woman is trying to restore it and bring the school back, which kind of makes her feel very uneasy. So she has a boyfriend who is a police, and they're kind of looking into everything that happened back then, and they're trying to like uncover a cold case. And she's also doing this because her sister was found near there, so she again feels uneasy that this woman is trying to restore it, and she's like, why is she trying to do that? I have a good feeling about this thriller because thrillers tend to let me down. I say this in a lot of my videos, and I'm hoping that like the easy predictions don't come to pass, because I'm hoping that I do get shocked with this one. I do hear that she is a really good author, and yeah, I'm excited to continue reading this. So I finished Broken Girls by Simone St. James. To say I was pretty underwhelmed, I think is like an understatement, because it was going well, but like I've said in the past, a thriller can be a super hit or miss, and it usually is the plot twist is what it is. Like in like a regular romance book, or even sometimes a fantasy, it's okay to be predictable sometimes, but sometimes I do want more shocking things out of like the fantasy books, but predictability is okay sometimes. But when it comes to thrillers, I am looking to be shocked. That's the only reason I would read this genre. And I feel like half the time I'm not, and this is definitely the case for this one. So I'm gonna still think on this, and I will do an update with my husband in the video at the end with all the books and their final rating. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit. And I have started my final book in this video where my husband chooses my reads that he picked out, where he did cheat and he ended up picking the Invincible like side stories. And I'm a little ways in right now, and I'll probably finish this in a couple hours or so. Now there is more dialogue in comics than you would think there would be. Still not focusing. It's not focusing. I'm just gonna stand up because my body blocks it. All right, you guys, so I finally finished the 5 books my husband picked out for me in the month of November. So I have him sitting right here so I can give him some of my final thoughts. But first, what I thought it would be a lot of fun to do is have him rank them from worst to best, what he thinks I would have rated them, because I did give him updates throughout. So what do you think? So you're going to, so welcome back, hubby.
Hi, how you doing? So do you want me to rank this from 5? What do you think?
5 to 1, 5 being the worst.
Okay. Don't usually see 5 being the best, so I'll go with that. So if I had to pick, you probably thought this one was the worst, Deadly Education.
Okay, number 5. He thinks this is number 5.
Okay. Number 4 was probably the Invincible universe.
Why do you say that?
Because it's just a bunch of short stories. It's good universe building, but you know, it's not one coherent story. It's just probably not. It's probably hard to get into and stay into it the whole time. I don't know. Probably better just read right after you read the original series. I don't know. I just that's what I think.
Okay.
And number 3 is probably Broken Girls.
Okay.
And then number 2 would be Mistborn. And then number 1 is probably your new favorite book of all time, is Battle Royale. If
you guys watched the other video, this is my husband's favorite book of all time, Battle Royale, and that's why he really, really wanted me to read it. So, all right, so let's see what the actual ratings were. All right, so starting at 5.
You may help me?
Yes, I do. You hold them. Broken Girls is number 5 for me. The last time I updated you guys, I let you know that I was super disappointed with the plot twist. I thought there were a lot of good components in this book, but overall, if I'm let down by a plot twist in a thriller, it kind of just throws me out of it. But I did like the story. I would give this about a 3 star. So this is gonna be number 5. And then the next one, I hate to do this, this actually really breaks my heart, is going to be Invincible. And this one I didn't update you guys too much on. The reason I would put this at number 4 is because what I'm about to say may not really like resonate with you if you have not read the Invincible universe, but 2 of my favorite characters are Rexplode and Adam Eve, and only about this much of it was their like backstory and stuff with them. The rest was like side characters from the Guardians of the Globe, and some of them were like newer ones that I like. Yeti, do you remember? Yeah, like I didn't resonate with those characters. I wasn't attached to them. So it was kind of harder for me to get through. The action and stuff was good. I need to say the rating.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so with this, it really breaks my heart to put this at number 4, and I rated this a 3.5 star. The next one is going to be a Deadly Education. This one is going to be number 3 in the lineup. I rated this 4 stars. I'm really excited about what's to come with the series. I thought it was really fun. It's a mix of dark academia and fantasy, and I kind of updated you guys as we went, so you know that I did enjoy this one. And this is, drum roll here, coming in at number 2 is going to be Battle Royale. You should have known how much I liked this, the way I talked about it. All right, coming in at number 2 is going to be Battle Royale. I rated this one 4.5
I can't do this anymore.
stars. No, it could be, it was between a 4.5 and 5 stars. I'm still like not completely sure. Maybe 4.75. It was very, very, no, it's 4.5 because I also rated that the same. So this is 4.5. I rated this a 4.5 stars. This is very good. As you knew from my update, I said a lot of great things about it. It was very thrilling, dystopian, very Hunger Games-esque. So I could see Susan Collins taking inspiration from this book. This is obviously the original. Actually, I think Lord of the Flies is like the original like Hunger Games type of story, and then this.
Possibly.
Yeah, but because it does say he was inspired by Lord of the Flies. But anyway, the reason I feel like I liked this one a lot, almost maybe even tied with this, is like in Hunger Games, I had explained before, is that these people are thrust onto an island from different districts. They may not really have like allegiance to each other, but these kids were like offing their classmates, which I really like the whole psychological aspect to it, and it was like very sad. And although Hunger Games is very emotional, this felt even more emotional. And if you read this, it's like, never mind, because like you said, the less you know, you better. But the less you know, the better. I highly recommend this, 4.5 stars. And then coming in at, anything you want to say about Battle Royale? How my feelings on that?
Oh, no, it's fine. You know, everybody's got an opinion, even though yours is wrong. That's okay.
Opinions aren't wrong, subjective. And coming in at number 1, I did rate it the same as Battle Royale, 4.5 stars, is going to be Mistborn. You guys heard me talk very highly about Mistborn throughout the video. I absolutely love this. The unique magic system with the allomancy really just like gripped me. The characters, I loved everything about the story. I'm very, very excited. I feel like Brandon Sanderson is going to be my new Sarah J. Maas, so I'm super excited for the rest of the series and the Cosmere universe in general. So there are my final rankings. So number 1 is Mistborn. I think that this little experiment went really well because overall I enjoyed all the books my husband picked out for me, and I think he's gonna have to do it again because I trust your picking. I guess I trust your picking. The only thing is this is the only one that he actually picked out by judging based off of a cover, so maybe I would say maybe don't judge a book by its cover because this was my least favorite. I liked most of the story, but it just, anyways, it was my least favorite. So
it was on your cart.
It was on my TBR cart. The two that were not on my TBR cart were Invincible, the side stories, and then because that Invincible universe, the actual compendiums, the 3 main ones, I rated those all 5 stars. But Battle Royale and Invincible he had just took off my shelf, so he did not play the game correctly, but I will say I'm glad that he did do that because I did want to read both of these, and I very much enjoyed Battle Royale. This is going to stick with me for a very, very long time, this story. So yep, I will bring my hubby back on here again sometime. So thank you so much, hubby, for coming on and doing this with me.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and stop trying to get up.
I'm not, I'm trying to just move.
Oh, okay. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you so much for watching. Drop down in the comments if you have read or enjoyed any of these books, or if you have any other recommendations for me that maybe have the same vibes as Mistborn and Battle Royale, because I very much like those. I will see you next Sunday. Bye, guys.